we're going to do something we've yet to do at the Hookham House, a live podcast with our friends from Texas X's. They've got their podcast, Hello Longhorn. Sarah Light is your host. She's here, and she's got a very special guest. And again, this is a live podcast taping of Hello Longhorn, a production of Texas X's. Bring out Sarah Light. Come on.
Sure, that's
okay. Hi, everybody. So my name is Sarah Light, and I work at Texas X's, and we started Hello Longhorn. It's a Texas X's podcast introducing you to Longhorn entrepreneurs and business leaders. And we just want people to know who are Longhorns. And today we have Carla Vernón, and she is the CEO of The Honest Company. And what is so cool about that is you can actually support The Honest Company by walking into a Target or shopping, and you can say, oh my gosh, a Longhorn is running that.
Let's do that. Let's walk in some stores. Let's pull out our phones right now. Why not? Nothing else to do.
And so thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
I know that you were born in Buffalo.
Yes.
And
Wow.
okay. And then you went to Princeton.
Yes.
So that's Jersey. You live in Minneapolis. But how did you decide to come to Texas to get your MBA?
Would it be very unimpressive to tell you it was an accident?
No, why?
Okay. So, yes, I am from Buffalo. I went to school in New Jersey. My favorite color is orange because every school I go to the school color is orange, including my middle school and high school. And it probably helps to take a step backwards to say how I chose Texas. After my undergraduate time at Princeton, where I studied ecology and evolutionary biology, I moved to Chicago to work in the nonprofit and public service community. And I didn't have a lot of money. I had a lot of student loans, however.
Sure.
And so I was slowly going broke and thought, well, I want to have impact in the world, but I don't know how to do it in this way in the nonprofit community and in the nonprofit world, where sometimes there actually isn't the scale behind the efforts that you think that there will be. And also, I just literally couldn't pay my bills. I had some mentors who said you should think about business school. So I found a program called the Consortium for Graduate Study in Management that offers full scholarships to business schools. And you fill out this form. What I didn't know when I filled out the form was that the rank order you put the schools in is indicating your first preference choice, and only one school is allowed to offer you the full ride. So I just filled out the form, didn't read the directions closely enough, put UT as the first one, and it was meant to be, clearly. Do it.
And why did you want to come and get your MBA? Because so you got a full ride here, but you're still making an investment of your time. You obviously wanted to pivot your career.
Yeah, back then, I'm not sure it's the same anymore for how you need to navigate a career. But back then, I knew that I wanted to work for companies that would do big good and do good at scale. And I'd had mentors who told me, if you find the right big corporations where the leaders are leaders of value and the products are products that do good in the world, you'd be surprised at the impact you can have by doing a lot of good working for a corporation. And so in order to do that, there's really, back then it was, first of all, there wasn't like Facebook or Instagram. I mean, there was just, it was like rock. It was like the Stone Ages. And so if you wanted to get companies to understand and look at you a different way, one of the best avenues for me to move from politics and nonprofit was to go to business school, get that credibility that I'm a business person, and importantly add that summer internship that would put a brand name on my resume of a company that would make sense to corporations.
Yeah.
So I did my summer internship at another amazing grocery retailer. I know we love H-E-B down here, cool. And we love Central Market.
Yeah.
And I did my internship at what I think is kind of a cousin of H-E-B, which is Wegmans. And if you've lived in the Northeast, you also love you some Wegmans.
And when you look back at your time as a McCombs MBA student, like what's the thing that you're like, this was the best part?
Oh, come on, Sarah. What was the best part? I mean,
Or-
this. You know my husband is a Longhorn, right?
Okay, that's
So
what I was gonna
let's talk
say.
about what was the best part.
Meet
I
your
mean,
husband.
I came to Texas, and in my class was this cute guy. And I actually came to Texas with a boyfriend, different boyfriend. And this group of students, we really bonded. When I was at UT, it was a very interesting inflection point for UT because our class, the class of 98, was the last class before the affirmative action decision in the Fifth Circuit changed the admissions approach for the school. So our class was the last class for I don't even know how many years that had more than 5 Black people in it. And that group of Black students that was in our class together, we really supported each other through the entire journey. We had this thing we would call BFS, which was Black folks studying. And so we would study, we would quiz each other before the exams. And so my husband was in that group, but he wasn't really, paying any mind to me until we got set up by I had a very good girlfriend in the group. Her name is Leslie, and he had a very good friend in the group, and his name was Larry. Leslie and Larry were dating. I mean, this is a throwback story. And Leslie and Larry wanted some other couple to go out with, so they kind of tricked us. And we didn't realize this. Jason and I did not learn this story till we'd been married 3 years. Larry told Jason, Carla's interested in you. Leslie told me, Jason's interested in you. And who doesn't like to go out on a date with someone who's interested in them? So we went out on a date. The rest was history. And that most certainly is the best thing that happened to me at UT.
I love that story. There's so many Longhorns that meet while on campus, and I think that's such a magical thing. What did you want to do when you graduate? You went to General Mills. Was that the goal? Like you said, you wanted to go big, scale big. So you got the job you wanted?
No, I didn't really understand what jobs in business were.
Okay.
So when I came to UT, I was so poor financially. People say I didn't have a dollar to my name. It was true for me. I lived in Chicago. I told you I worked in the nonprofit sector. Before I came to UT, I had a garage sale. It was in the backyard of my 2-flat in Chicago. I sold all my worldly possessions for cash so that I could have enough money to drive to grad school. By the time I got to UT, my cash was so low, I didn't have enough money to buy food to eat. So I had to borrow $25 from one of the deans. When I came, I was like, I know that coming to business school is going to allow me to pivot my life in a new direction, but I didn't know what anybody in business did. My parents were teachers.
Yep.
I was in the nonprofit sector. I didn't even know the names of the jobs you do. So that first year of business school, there was a career fair. And I don't know if they still do the career fair. It's probably super modern now. I don't know. It's probably all on the cloud. But the career fair, we walked into the convention center was all stacked with, the different booths you could go to and visit the companies. And we had been prepared to have our resumes with us. Back then you had a little hard copy of your resume on this very thick, creamy paper. And I would go around to the booths and they would say, well, what are you interested in doing? And I would say, I don't know, what kind of jobs do you have? Which is not the advice I give anybody, because that is not a good way to get a job, folks. And I would have them tell me more about the jobs. I eventually figured out that I'm a creative person, but I'm also analytical. And I said, what are the jobs that creative but analytical people do? And I learned that often lands you in marketing. And in the consumer packaged goods sector is where the best marketers are. So I was like, I want to go where the best of the best are, and I want to take my 2 skills and put them to use. So then I said, because I'm very stature and status oriented, let's admit that. And I was like, well, where are the best places to go do that? Where are the best marketers? And so I applied to all the greats, P&G, Colgate-Palmolive, General Mills, and I found that General Mills was the place for me because they were very proactive, even back in the 80s and the 90s, about diversity, about representation.
Yeah.
And I could already see executives who looked like a lot of different things. Some of them looked like me, some of them looked different. And I knew I could bring my values to life.
And,
So that's how
and you worked there over 20 years.
23, yeah.
23 years.
Yeah.
And what gave you the, I think, bravery to then leave to go to Amazon? When you're at some place for 23 years, it's hard to leave, I think, to take a chance because you know the lingo, the language, the environment. What was driving you? Was it that you wanted to move forward your career? You wanted to find a new challenge? You wanted to find a new purpose?
I'm not a person who strives for comfortable spaces. I'm a person who sees the future and strives to be part of pushing us towards that. So 23 years didn't make me more inclined to stay at a place.
Okay.
In fact, the whole time I was at General Mills, often I was the person that people didn't really understand. My marketing ideas, my business building ideas were a lot of times ahead of what people thought was likely to work or was not something that was done. But it was what also allowed me to transform so many brands and drive so much growth. I could see the market before other people could see it. So after 23 years at a company, I probably worked on almost every brand or product, maybe some of them twice. And I thought to myself, I don't feel like I'm really evolving anymore, but I don't know what's next. So I actually didn't leave General Mills to go to Amazon. I left General Mills to go write a book on leadership, and I thought I was going to start a podcast. And then I was going to take a year and just allow myself to sort of refresh my point of view and my energy. And I thought the world would let me know what was next. It turns out what was next was two big things: a global pandemic, and George Floyd was murdered in Minnesota, which is where Jason and I live and where we were raising two Black and brown teenagers. And so there was a real swift change in what was called for from my experience and my knowledge. So I took the time to focus on helping my children through both of those two very disruptive events, and then learned that companies were starting to wake up to the fact that in senior leadership, the ranks were not diverse. And if you don't know, the research shows that companies with diverse leaders and diverse boards drive stronger results. That's very proven. And so the tech world took a self-evaluation after George Floyd died, as did many industries, and said in the upper ranks, they don't have a lot of differential, diverse thinking. And so I got an invitation from Amazon to come, and I thought, I think I can help you. You know, it's a little bit arrogant and bold, like you can help Amazon, but I thought they needed a different kind of person. So that's what brought me there.
And I want to say, like, I think it's so interesting that you say you always felt like you were a little ahead of your time, that no one quite understood you. It can be such an uncomfortable space when you're like, I know what I can do. Why aren't you listening to me? Or why is this not your normal? How do you like grow through that over 23 years?
Well, I think if you start out as an Afro-Latina little girl raised in a predominantly white suburb, you already have a lot of training of being a person who's not necessarily understood, or people don't have the same life perspective, the same viewpoint that I can bring to the table. My father was an immigrant to this country. My mom grew up in the segregated South. Those were conversations that were always happening in our home, unlike probably conversations that were happening in homes of my classmates. So I was already really raised to understand both how to flow within the context of whatever is the majority, but also know that I'm still separate from that. I need to learn how to be able to be effective in that environment. That is great training for being an innovator and going into organizations that need to drive growth, where you can see something that maybe others can't.
And I've heard you say your origin story is your superpower, and that kind of speaks to that.
That's right. That's right.
So now we want to get into the Honest Company, where you are the CEO. And how I found out that you were a Longhorn is I was talking to another Longhorn who runs Ocean's Halo, which is a seaweed snack company.
Love that.
And you must have just gotten the job. I had just met him, and he goes, "Did you know? Did you know that a Longhorn is the new CEO of the Honest Company?" And I said, "What? I use that product. That's cool." And I went to your Instagram, and it was public, and you had like more than 3,000 followers. So I was like, "Oh, I think I can follow her. It wouldn't be weird."
Not weird. I don't have 3,000 followers.
No, you have like 5,000. You had
LinkedIn,
more.
I have a lot, but not on Insta.
You have a lot on Instagram. No,
Okay.
if you had like 50 followers, I would have been like, "Oh, this is too personal. I can't get up in her business." But because you had a lot of followers.
Girl, get up in the business. I'm here. I'm an open book.
And you had a post the day before you started the Honest Company where you walked to the Honest Company with your mother, and you said, just like the first day of school, you have to practice what has worked before. And immediately I was like, wow, I have never seen a CEO like so relatable. You were dressed like you were just dressed in normal.
Probably dressed like this, yes.
You were walking with your mom, and I just immediately was like, I have to get to know her one day. And so that is where I started following you.
Thank you.
When you walked into the Honest Company, it was your first CEO role. You've mentioned you're one of the first Afro-Latina CEOs of a publicly traded company. How does one prepare? Because you're starting a new legacy. How do you prepare for that? Is it reading books? Is it talking to people? Is it coming up with your own goal for the first 60 days?
I had a boss, one of the best bosses I ever had. We worked together when I was in the cereal division and I was a marketing director, and he was the president of the cereal division. His name is Jeff Harmoning. He is currently the CEO of General Mills. And one of the things he told me that I didn't think was a compliment, it sounded like this real weird compliment at the time, is he said, Carla, the thing that is actually your best trait as a business person is how coachable you are. And I thought, like, can we come up with a better trait? That doesn't even sound like you're actually good at something specific. But now that I'm a leader of people, I really do understand why that's an important trait and what he meant. And I think that trait is what's served me well in learning how to become a public company CEO, and serves me well even as an ongoing learner as a CEO, is that I like to be humble enough to say, if I don't know how something is done, I am willing to admit I don't know how, and I'm willing to take people up on their offer to teach me. There are teachers all around you. When people say, hey, connect with me later, happy to help, I'm like, you're gonna regret that, because I'm going to connect with you later. So to prepare for being a public company CEO, of course, I read everything publicly available about the company. I also called friends of mine or old mentors that are public company CEOs, most of them big highfalutin CEOs. But I said, what is important to know as I get started? I also read all those books. You read First 90 Days, you read Built to Last, Doing What Matters. I mean, all of these books. But I will tell you that when you get into the seat, the most important thing is, A, believe in yourself, because there will be hard days and very sort of non-affirming moments. And also leverage the power of a team to make you better. So even when I got in the seat, I just let the learning be ongoing. I think I filled my calendar. Every other day I tried to talk to somebody who was either a friend of mine that's a banker, an investor, a CFO, a CEO, asking them what they thought was important for me to know.
I know that you got to be transformative with the board, and you've talked about it, that your board right now is 66% women and 56% people of color. And that has to be, unfortunately, not the norm. Is that something that people approach you about a lot and say, Carla, how did you do that? How can I do that in my company?
I'm just truly grateful that I didn't have to show up at the Honest Company and make a case that a company that allows people to authentically be themselves, that values different experiences that you bring with you to the table, I didn't have to bring that idea. The Honest Company was founded by 4 founders, and one of the founders is Latina, and one of the founders is Asian. The board the numbers were already very similar to that when I arrived. My opportunity was, as 3 board seats came open, to pick people whose subject matter expertise would align with what I needed as an executive, as a sounding board, and what the company needed strategically, and make sure we don't compromise on any of the aspects of who we chose. That's our mindset. Fortunately, we all, because diverse people have diverse networks, we can search through a pool of the best and find the best, and they might look like anything. And it happens that in our numbers, they look like lots of people of color and lots of women. And I think our results tell the tape. The results tell the story of that data that I said, which is that companies that are led by diverse leaders and that have diverse boards do better. The market is very pleased with our results. You know, we've been growing double-digit top-line growth, expanding margin and profitability. We actually expanded 1,000 basis points of gross margin, which is unheard of. That's 10 percentage points. Our margin went from 26% to 36% in 1 year. People, my investors would tell me they've never seen anything like that fast. So I'm really pleased with the leadership. It works.
You know, we were talking about this, well, two things. Number one, I was an early customer of the Honest Company, and to me, it was my introduction into what clean beauty, clean baby, clean was. I had never heard that term before, and now you guys are in a market where it is a hot topic. And you guys were one of the first, at least to me as a consumer, as not somebody like knowing the numbers. What is that like now that people are really, you have the Honest Standard, there's 3,500.
3,500.
I have it written here, and I was trying to pull it from my mind, and I should
Yes,
look
I'll say it. You don't have to say it. You don't have to be the expert. We have something we call the Honest Standard. So the Honest Company has 3,500 ingredients that we don't formulate with, we don't allow in our products. That's higher than any standard in the US regulations or the EU regulations.
And why is that important to y'all?
Well, I don't know about you, but I couldn't actually be a skincare girly. Many decades ago, my face didn't want to have anything to do with these products that are on the market. I have sensitive skin, I have eczema. And so actually when I was at Amazon, leading center store everyday essentials for Amazon, I was in charge of all of beauty and skincare for Amazon, among all the other good categories like food and candy and household products and medicine. And I would get samples from all the fancy French brands and the, you know, Korean beauty. I was getting everything. And I couldn't, I know, y'all, my beauty skincare closet. One time I let my teenage daughter host a Halloween party at our house. And I said, why don't you let the girls trick or treat in the beauty closet? I mean, hello.
Cool.
That's beauty girlies. That was pretty good. And so I couldn't use anything. When I sampled the Honest products, was the first time I could my skin was so happy. And the statistics are showing that the numbers of children born with allergies has doubled in the last 10 years. And so our products are needed more than ever. And whether that is the diapers that we make, the baby lotions and baby ointments, or for adults, the beautiful face creams. I was telling you about my favorite serum.
Oh yeah, tell everybody about your favorite.
Oh, the new ageless serum that we launched. There's this duo. It's an ageless serum that is accompanied by this gorgeous face cream. I am now morning and night, I'm soaking in it. If I look young, now you know why. And it's just amazing. And now I feel great. Our surface wipes, I just feel good. I'm not leaving any, you know, chemical aftermath on my countertops that I don't trust.
Is there, silly question, but you know, we've all watched Devil Wears Prada and Vogue on Sex and the City. Is there a closet at the Honest Company that you have access to? And it's just like, yes.
There are closets with things.
Nice.
Also at my house, I pay for it myself. I always keep beauty products on hand at my house because one has to gift one's friends, right?
Yeah.
So yes, Carla's friends get a lot of beauty little goodies. And I love being an auntie. I've just had my first grandniece. So that grandniece is just she's so fashionable with her little diapers.
How are you enjoying? So again, the Honest Company, again, we all were, a lot of people will say, oh, that was Jessica Alba's company, right? Oh, Jessica Alba's company.
Yes.
You're now the CEO, you're now the face of the company.
Yes.
How is that being in such a forward-facing role that now you're coming to South by and you're on the panels?
Sarah, you and I talked about it. I feel this is like a bit of an otherworldly experience for me because when I came to UT, I mean, when I say I didn't have 2 nickels, I was so broke my phone got cut off, and a classmate paid my phone bill for me. Now, young people, you don't know anything about this. We didn't have cell phones back then. This was the phone in my apartment, got cut off, and this very wonderful classmate paid the phone bill. So, well, he's my husband now, so you know what I mean? I paid him back. He's got 2 beautiful children, so I paid him back. So I feel so regular. It's kind of goofy, but if I can do some good with this position, that is the beautiful thing. And I will just say, Jessica, who still is a board member of The Honest Company, she still feels as passionate. She's like a soul sister to me. She is so supportive. And we are just here to let people know about the power of women-led businesses, Black and brown-led businesses, and just damn good business brains. I don't care. We're smart. We're great business people.
Well, I hope that everybody here, it's like the whole purpose of this podcast. I'm in LinkedIn and Instagram, like just constantly stalking Longhorns because it's so exciting. Because when I know that you were on the 40 acres and I was on the 40 acres, all of a sudden something in my brain says, oh, look what's possible. And I don't know what's possible until I know what you're doing. And so that's what we're really trying to do at Texas X's, is to show and shout out and cheerlead on our alumni.
Texas X's is such a vast and powerful community, and it goes so far beyond the state of Texas. We're global. We're all on the coast. I'm just so thankful to get an opportunity to stay connected to the community. For those of us on the coast, it can be harder. So it's just a thrill.
Okay, quick questions just to end that I like to ask. When you were on campus, where was your favorite place to get food?
Well, you already know that I didn't have a lot of money. So a date for me and Jason was going to Central Market, wandering all the aisles, and then getting some pre-prepared food and sitting there and eating. And I think he was probably so cute. I could have eaten anywhere. You know what I mean? So that is probably my best memory. But The Honest Company is actually across the street from our LA offices, is a home state. So I like to get my breakfast taco on even when I'm in LA, and I feel like a little bit of Texas is right with me.
I've heard that's the best queso.
Oh, I'm lactose intolerant. I'll have to take your word for it. I bet.
What, do you remember the best class you took as an MBA or your favorite?
It's interesting because I'm one of those people, I always hear the people who are reminiscing about undergrad or grad school, and they remember a professor and they remember a class. I don't know. I think that maybe I'm just one of those very irresponsible souls where what was happening in class was never the most important part of what was happening at school. I feel like the relationships were the class. The relationships have been with me for a lifetime, even when I can't exactly remember the classes. But here's what really was powerful. I took an econ class from Professor Tomlinson. Professor Tomlinson was also a stand-up comic on the side. And one of the things that the professor implored us, and all the people taking econ classes are your finance people and the folks who want to go into consulting and banking and all this stuff, and we go to business school, we want to get out there and make a lot of money. He would implore us, please do not think your mission for coming to business school is to get out there and maximize your net worth. Please don't use your MBA that way. Please use your MBA to make an impact in the world. Make a footprint that helped someone and made a difference. So I don't remember a lot about class. I really remember a lot about my boyfriend. He was cute. And I remember a lot about my friends. They got me through, but I do remember that.
And then best advice for someone who wants to be on the CEO track or the CMO track, just the C-suite track.
The best advice I have is don't let anyone tell you you're not ready. Don't let anyone tell you your path forward isn't the one that's right. You know you better than your worst critics, you also know you better than your best cheerleaders, except your mom always knows you the best, and sometimes your husband. But I would just say, stay true to your calling and your inner drive, and just don't take no for an answer.
Thank you so much for being here today. We are so excited to host you at the Hook'em House.
Sarah.
Y'all can go to Target, you can go to the website.
You could go to Walmart, you go to Amazon, you go to Kroger, you could go to Whole Foods, everywhere you go, just find us. Sarah, I can't be in Austin and end this podcast without doing something for the old school crowd, which is goodbye and good luck.
I love it.
Those of us that remember Tex. Goodbye and good luck.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hook'em horns, everybody.
Hook 'em.